Okay, there we go. Now it's recording. Like, lags a little bit. But that's fine, that's fine. Alrighty, so we are on to the next book. And the next book is. I wanted to read the next book because me and my boyfriend finished watching Avatar the Last Airbender, and now we're on to Korra. And I'm really liking that. I don't know why so many people hate it, but I like it. I really enjoy it. So we are going to read Rise of Kyoshi by FC Yee with Avatar co-creator Michael Dante Dimartino. So I think this is canon. I think this is. I mean, Avatar co-creator also, you know, contributed to this book, so I'm pretty sure that's canon. It is canon. But yes, it's the Rise of Kyoshi, and we all kind of know from Avatar the Last Airbender and maybe some of Korra that she's a badass. She's made quite a name for herself, and she's celebrated in a lot of, Avatar sort of stuff. But yes, I will read first the like what the back of the book says, and then I'll also read like the side like the sidebar like inside, because this is a hardcover, but it has like a sleeve, so it's like the side in cover sleeve. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be in the book, but in the back it says, Kyoshi stood her ground. Give me the avatar, she repeated, or I will put you down like the beast you are. Tagaka, yeah, Tagaka. Also, these names are going to be really hard to pronounce since they're, not English, like American sounding names. They're more like, Asian sounding, which I'm pretty okay with, but some will be pretty weird. I kind of like flipped through the book and I saw some like names that seemed hard to pronounce, but I'm pretty sure I'll get them. But Tagaka. Yeah, Tagaka. Okay. See, like, yeah. Tagaka spread her arms wide, telling her to look around them at the field of ice they were standing on. With what? With what, little girl from the Earth Kingdom? She asked. With what? Kyoshi braced her stomach, filled her lungs, and slammed her feet into the crowding bridge stance. A column of gray stone seafloor exploded up from the surface of the ocean. It caught the hull of Tagaka's cutter and listed the ship to the side, tearing wooden planks off the frame as easily as paper off a kite. A wave of displaced water swept over the iceberg, knocking pirates off their feet and smashing crates to splinters. Further out, the sea boiled, the groan of timber shattering against rock filled the air, as hideous as a chorus of wounded animals. Kyoshi dropped to her knees, panting and heaving. Tagaka turned around. Her face, so controlled over the past 2 days, spasmed in every direction. What in the name of spirits are you? And that's just like a little excerpt of what the back of the book says. So that's probably going to be in the book once we get to that part, whenever that may be. I don't know, because I haven't read this book. I feel like this is going to be the first book I haven't read before, so be patient with me on that one too. Because I'll also be fangirling and I'll be like, what the fuck? Oh my god! Like, sort of like that, so bear with me. Yeah, because the other books that I've read, already read. Like Maybird, I already read. Gisela, I've already read. Brave New World, I've already read. So, same. Well, you've always... This is always your first time listening, so... Alright. And now we get to the side cover, which is like... kind of like the introduction summary that should be on the back. Yes, I really love Avatar too, man. My god. Alright. So, the side cover says, justice begins with one woman. 9 years after the desperate searching for the next Avatar, the discovery of young, charming Avatar Yoon has brought stability to the four nations. That is, until Earth Kingdom-born Kyoshi. Yoon's unassuming friend and servant demonstrates remarkable bending during a mission to the South Pole. With the identity of the true Avatar at stake and the growing unrest among her allies turning into violence, Kyoshi is forced to flee the Avatar mansion with her fiery friend Rangi, taking little more than the metal war fans and the headdress her parents left behind. It isn't easy finding Avatar training on the run, but Kyoshi and Rangi find unlikely supporters in the Dao Fei, ragtag criminals and outlaws living in the shadows of the Earth Kingdom. Torn between following the traditional path of an Avatar and seeking vengeance for those she has lost, Kyoshi struggles to accept her newfound power as she trains in secret. But while Kyoshi, Rangi, and her Dao Fei friends face off brutal underworld rivals, those who seek to control the Avatar draw even closer to her, leaving... Wait. Let me write that again. Let me read that again. But while Kyoshi, Rangi, and her Dao Fei friends face off against brutal underworld rivals, those who seek to control the Avatar draw ever closer to her, leaving trails of the dead in their wake. The story behind the longest living Avatar in the history of this beloved world, the Rise of Kyoshi, maps Kyoshi's journey from a girl of humble origins to the merciless pursuer of justice, still feared and admired centuries after becoming the Avatar. So, let me see. I don't know if it's exactly spoilers, but I think she lived like 200 plus years. Let me Google it. How long did Kyoshi live? 230 years. Yep. She lived for 230 years. Longest living Avatar. I don't know how. Right? I wonder what she did to live that long. Yeah, she was. She was a giant. But yes, oh shit. I forgot. I usually do this too. So I always grant you guys with a picture of what the book looks like. She's a queen. Yes, yes, she is. Excuse me. So that's the cover of the book. I got a pretty good picture. Yeah, that is the picture of our beloved Kyoshi. Yeah. She is amazing. Alright. Well, I should also show you, because there are, they put a map, just so you know, like, where she went and stuff, so I might as well give you that, too. Hold on, just 1 second. I need to adjust the book at the right angle. I didn't mean to say 2. So disregard that, if you can. Okay, not the best picture ever, but it pretty much, that's like the map that they give us from them. So if you want to look back to that, go ahead. Because she's probably going to go all over the place. Yeah, it is the world map. Okay. So, I think we are all ready to do this. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, it's still processing. Okay. I am also in the process of uploading the last of the Brave New World videos. So, hopefully, my laptop doesn't feel really hot, so that's a good sign. Let's try and keep it that way. Alright. But yes, we shall begin this new journey. And there's no chapter numbers. There's only there's only chapter names. But before that, there's a little short, it's a page written by Michael Dante Dimartino, and it's called Forward. And it's basically kind of his take or view on Kyoshi, on the book. Okay, so forward. Any prequel story, again, now I'm messing up. Forward. Any prequel story presents a unique challenge. Never mind one set in a fictional canonical universe, like that of Avatar the Last Airbender. A common pitfall of prequels, since the reader already knows how things eventually turn out, they are one step ahead of the hero. Well done. However, A prequel can expand and deepen a beloved fantasy world by exploring its history and characters in new ways. This is the case with The Rise of Kyoshi. Readers familiar with the original Nickelodeon series might recall that Avatar Kyoshi was a legend, even among the impressive pantheon of avatars. But how did she become a woman dedicated to fighting injustice throughout the world? And why was she so feared by her enemies? These were the questions left unexplored. In my first talks with F.C. Yee, the main author of this book, we discussed a few possible plots, but also asked ourselves, what kind of character is Kyoshi? What drives her, and what kind of events in her past could have caused her to develop such a legendary figure? Caused her to develop into such a legendary figure. I didn't envy Yee that challenge of tackling these questions. I knew he'd have to play within the conventions of an already established world, while simultaneously marking it with his own creative stamp. And the Avatar universe has no shortage of must-haves. First, you must have an avatar, the reincarnated being who holds the ability to manipulate or bend all four elements, who has a connection to the mysterious spirit world, and who deals with conflicts among the water tribes, Earth Kingdom, Fire Nation, and air nomads. The Avatar can't do this all alone, and thus must have a core group of teachers and friends, Team Avatar, as we like to call it. Political conflict is also a must, whether it's a world war or revolution. The Avatar inevitably ends up in the center of the fight before he or she is ready. And of course, there's never a shortage of epic bending battles. Though all avatars share certain rites of passage, such as mastering all four elements, each one must have a unique journey and face different personal and political challenges on their way to becoming a fully realized avatar. In The Rise of Kyoshi, we meet a young woman so unlike the legend she is to become that we wonder how she could possibly transform into such a remarkable figure. She is not a great earthbender. People don't even believe she's the Avatar at the start of the book. A great conceit on Yee's behalf, and one that provides the crux of the conflict for the entire novel. Entrusting another writer with a world and characters that I helped create is always fraught with anxiety for me. In the wrong hands, it can be a disheartening experience. But when I read the Rise of Kyoshi for the first time, I was immediately drawn to the story and entranced by its intriguing new characters and backstory. I was eager to read on to find out how Kyoshi would overcome all the obstacles in her way, and Yee throws plenty of them in her path. Working on this project with everyone involved has been a pleasure, and I couldn't be more excited about this incarnation of the Avatar universe. Michael Dante Dimartino. So I'm really excited to read this book, and I hope you are too. I feel like I just read like a whole bunch, but I didn't. Hell yeah. Okay, but first, before anything else, I need to see how much I want to read. Of course, right? Of course. Kind of sucks how it doesn't have any sort of like chapter numbers. I'm like considering just like writing them down, but also like I don't want to defile the book. Sorry, I'm still looking at where I want to end. Okay. Okay. All right. I think I know where I want to leave off. All right. So I guess chapter 1, but I'm probably gonna lose track. So okay. First off, first chapter is the test. Yokoya Port was a town easy to overlook. Situated at the edge of Whaletail Strait, it could have been a major restocking point for ships leaving one of the many harbors that supplied Omashu. But the strong, reliable prevailing winds made it too easy and cost-effective for southbound merchants to cruise right past it and reach Shimson Big Island in a straight shot. Jianshu Jianshoju. I just want to say Jianzhu, but it's spelled Jianshu. Because I want to respect the names and stuff. Hold on, let me see if Jianshu. Pronunciation. Jianshi. Jiansu. Jiansu? Is that how you say it? Jianzu. I feel like Jianzu is pretty good. Or Jianzu. Like, for the listeners that are going to be listening to this on YouTube, Jian Shou. Yeah, I'm like trying to. Like Jianshu. I don't know, man, this is driving me nuts. Jianzhu. Jianshou? Because none of them are really giving me a good translation. And if they are, then I'm just dumb. the voices are all like computerized, so it doesn't make it any easier. But it sounds like zoo, like shoe or something. Jianzhu. Jianzhu. Jianshu. Sorry, you guys. I'm trying to get this right. Because this name gets repeated a lot. Let me see. Yes, this name gets repeated a lot, and I want to do good. Jianshou. Jianzhou. Jianzhou. Okay, let me look it up again. And Jianzhou. Jianzhou. Okay. Jianzhou. Jianzhou. Hold on. Jianzhou. Su. Jianzhou. Jianzhou. Okay, I think I finally found it. Jianzhou. And it's a Chinese name, or word. So, for anyone who is Chinese, I am, or I guess Asian, and I mess up a lot of these names, I am sorry. I am trying my best. Jianzhou. Alright. So, let me start over from the beginning. It wasn't that long. Man, this book is heavy. Alright, so the test. How much time have I wasted? Oh my god. It's been 30 minutes and I haven't... It's okay. Okay. So, the test. Yokuya why am I so anxious now? Not anxious, but just doubting myself. Oh, gotta stop that. Okay. Yokoya, Yokoya Port. Now I'm just saying it weird. Yokoya Port was a town easy to overlook. Situated at the edge of Whaletail Strait, it could have been a major restocking point for ships leaving one of the many harbors that supplied Omashu. But the strong, reliable prevailing winds made it too easy and cost-effective for southbound merchants to cruise right past it and reach Shimsum Big Island in a straight shot. Jiansu wondered if the locals knew or cared that ships laden with riches sailed tantalizingly close by, while they were sunk elbows deep in the cavity of another elephant koi. Only a quirk of fate and weather kept piles of gold, spices, precious books, and scrolls from landing on their doorstep. Instead, their lot was fish guts, a wealth of maws and gills. The landward side was even less promising. The soil of the peninsula grew thin and rocky as it extended farther into the sea. It had disturbed Jiansu to see crop fields so meager and balding as he had rode through the countryside into town for the first time. The farmland lacked the wild volcanic abundance of the Makapu Valley, or the carefully ordered productivity of Ba Sing Se's outer ring, where growth bent to an exacting will of the king's planners. Here, a farmer would have to be grateful for whatever sustenance they could pull from the dirt. The settlement lay at the intersection of three different nations: earth, air, and water, and yet none have ever laid much of a claim of it. And yet none had ever laid such much of a claim to it. The conflicts of the outside world had little impact of the daily life for the Yokoyans. To them, the ravages of the Yellowneck Uprising in the deep interior of the Earth Kingdom were a less interesting story to the wayward flying bison that had gotten loose from the air temple and knocked the thatching off the few roofs last week. Despite being seagoers, they probably couldn't name any of the dreaded pirate leaders carving up the eastern waters in open defiance of the Ba Sing Se Navy. All in all, Yokoya Port might as well not have been on the map, which meant for Jianzu and Kelsang's desperate, sacrilegious little experiment, it was perfect. Jianzu trudged uphill on the wet, mucky snowfall, his neck prickling from the Jianzu trudged uphill in the wet, mucky snowfall, his neck prickling from the bundled straw cloak around his shoulders. He passed the wooden pillar that marked the spiritual center of the village without sparing it a glance. There was nothing on the sides or on the top of it. There was nothing on the sides or on top of it. It was just a bare log driven upright into the ground of a circular courtyard. It wasn't carved with any decorations. which seemed lazy for a town where nearly every adult had a working knowledge of carpentry. There, the most there, the post grudgingly said to any nearby spirits, "Hope you're happy." Weathered houses lined the broad, eroded avenue, poking steeply into the air like spear points. His destination was the larger two-story meeting hall at the end. Kelsang had set up shop there yesterday, saying he needed as much floor space as possible. Sorry. Yeah, Kelsang had set up shop. Yeah, Kelsang had set up shop there yesterday, saying he needed as much floor space as possible for the test. He'd also claimed that the location enjoyed some auspicious wind currents, using the very solemn and holy method of licking his finger and holding it up to the air. Whatever helped, whatever helped. Jiansu Hold on just 1 second. Alright. Sorry. I heard my parents getting the dogs inside because they're gonna go to bed. Anyway, he had also claimed that the location enjoys some auspicious wind currents, using the very solemn and holy method of licking his finger and holding it up in the air. Whatever helped. Jiansu sent a quick prayer to the guardian of the divine log as he pulled off his snow boots, laid them on the porch, and ducked through the door curtains. The interior of the hall was surprisingly large, with far corners draped in shadow and thick planked walls cut from what must have been truly massive trees. The air smelled of resin. 10 very long, very faded yellowed cloths stretched across the worn floorboards. A row of toys lay on each one, evenly placed like a seed bed. A bison whipple, a wicker ball, a misshapen blob that might have been a stuffed turtle duck, a coiled whalebone spring, one of those flappy drums that made noise when you spun it back and forth between your palms. The toys looked as worn and beaten as the outside of this building. Kelsang knelt at the far end of the cloths. The airbender monk was busy placing more knickknacks with a carefulness and precision that rivaled an acupuncturist setting their needles, as if it mattered whether the miniature boat sailed east or west. He stayed on his hands and knees, shuffling his great bulk sideways, his billowing orange robes and weary black beard hanging so low they made another sweep over the floor that had already been scrubbed clean. "I didn't know there were so many toys," Jianzu said to his old friend. He spotted a large white marble that looked too close to the edge. He spotted a large white marble that looked too close to the edge of the fabric, and, with a graceful extension of his wrist, levitated it with earth bending in front of Kelsang. It hovered like a fly, waiting for his attention. Kelsang didn't look up as he plucked the marble out of the air and put it right back where it had started. "There's thousands. I'd asked you to help, but you wouldn't do it right." Kelsang, Jiansu's head hurt at the statement. At this point, they were well past doing it right. How did you change Abbot George's mind about giving you the relics? He asked. The same way you convinced Liu Beifong to let us administer the air nomad test in the Earth cycle, Cao Sang said calmly as he recentered a wooden top. I didn't. Like a certain friend of theirs from the water tribe, like a certain like a certain friend from. Also, sorry if I keep on pausing, because this is like kind of new information in a way, so I'm like processing it too myself. So that's what I mean with reading a notebook is not gonna be easy for me, and recording it's not gonna be easy too. Because I'm just going to be like, wait, let me reread that again. Which I'll probably do, like, later. Like, much later. Okay, but yes. Alright. Let me start over from this point. Because, like I said, I'm still processing everything. Kelsing didn't look up as he plucked the marble out of the air and put it right back to where it had started. There's thousands. I'd asked you to help, but you wouldn't do it right. Jianzu's head hurt at the statement. At this point, they were well past doing it right. How did you change Abbot George's mind about giving you the relics? He asked. The same way you convinced Liu Beifong to let us administer the air nomad test in the Earth cycle. Kelsang said calmly as he recentered a wooden top. I didn't. Like a certain friend of theirs from the water tribe always said, it was better to ask for forgiveness than wait for permission. As far as Jianzu was concerned, the time for waiting had long since passed. When Avatar Karuk, the keeper of balance and peace in the world, the bridge between spirits and humans, passed away at the ripe old age of 33. 33. The only time Karuk had ever been early for anything. It became the duty of his friends, his teachers, and other prominent benders to find the new Avatar reincarnated into the next nation of the elemental cycle. Earth, fire, air, water, and then earth again. An order as unchanging as the seasons. A process stretching back nearly 1,000 generations before Karuk, and one that would hopefully continue for 1,000 more. Except this time, it wasn't working. It had been 7 years since Karuk's death, 7 years of fruitless searching. Jianzu had pored over every available record from the four nations, going back hundreds of years, and the hunt for the Avatar had never faltered like this in documented history. No one knew why, though revered elders traded guesses behind closed doors. The world was impure and had been abandoned by the spirits. The Earth Kingdom lacked cohesion, or maybe it was the water tribes and the pole that needed to unify. The airbenders had come down from the mountains to get their hands dirty instead of preaching. The debate went on and on. Jianzu cared less about apportioning blame and more about the fact that he and Kelsang had let down their friend again. The only serious decree of Karuk's before he departed from living was that his closest companions find the next Avatar and do it right by them. And so far, they'd failed. Spectacularly. Right now, There should have been a happy, burbling 7-year-old Earth Avatar in the care of their loving family, being watched over by a collection of the best, wisest benders of the world. A child in the midst of being prepared for the assumption of their duties at the age of 16. Instead, there was only a gaping void that grew more dangerous by the day. Jianzu and the others. Jianzu and the other. Jianzu. Yeah, Jianzu and the other masters did their best to keep the missing avatar a secret, but there was no use. The cruel and power-hungry, the lawless, people who normally had most to fear from the avatar were starting to feel the scales shifting in their favor. Like sand sharks responding to the slightest vibrations on pure instinct, they tested their limits, probed new grounds. Time was running out. Kelsing finished setting up when the noon gong strikes. Yeah, Kelsing finished setting up when the noon gong struck. The sun was high enough to melt snow off the roof, and the dripping flow of water pattered on the ground and the dripping flow of the water pattered on the ground like light rain. The silhouettes of villagers and their children queuing up for the test could be seen outside through the paper screen windows. The air was full of excited chatter. No more waiting, Jianzu thought. This happens now. Oh my god. This is so intense. They're trying to find the next avatar, and Jesus, Avatar Karuk was so young when he died. I wonder how he died. I wonder if it says later on how he died. But Jesus, this is so intense. Alright. Earth avatars were traditionally identified by directional geomancy, a series of rituals designed for winnow through the largest and most populous of the four nations as efficiently as possible. Each time a special set of bone trigrams was cast and interpreted by the earthbending masters, half the Earth Kingdom was ruled out as the location. Hold on. Okay. Earth avatars were traditionally identified by directional geomancy, a series of rituals designed to winnow through the largest and most populous of the four nations as efficiently as possible. Each time a special set of bone trigrams was cast and interpreted by the earthbending masters, half the Earth Kingdom was ruled out as the location of the newborn avatar. Then from the remaining territory, another half, and then another half again. The possible locations kept shrinking until the searchers were brought to the doorstep of the Earth Avatar child. It was a quick way to cover ground and entirely fitting to the earth-bending state of mind. A question of logistics, simple to the point of being brutal, and had normally worked on the first try. Jianzu had been part of expeditions sent by the bones to barren fields, empty gem caverns below Ba Sing Se, a patch of the Sea Wang Desert, so dry that not even the sandbenders bothered with it. Liu Beifong had read the trigrams. King Buro of Amashu gave it a shot. Ne Liao, the gardener, took her turn. The masters worked their way down through the earth-bending hierarchy until Jianzu racked up his fair share of misses as well. His friendship with Karuk brought him no special privileges when it came to the next avatar. After the last attempt After the last attempt had placed him on an iceberg in the North Pole with only turtle seals as potential candidates, Jiansu became open to radical suggestions. A drunken commiseration with Kelsang spawned a promising new idea. If the ways of the Earth Kingdom weren't working, why not try another nation's method? After all, wasn't the Avatar the only bender of all four elements, an honorary citizen of the entire world? That was why the two of them were wiping their noses with tradition and trying the air nomad way of identifying the Avatar. Wishes through toys! Just like Aang! That's so cool! I thought that was like a test like for everything. For like every Avatar. Oh, but that's so cool. Okay. Right? Maybe they'll get into that. Because we don't really know how Korra was found. She was just like, I'm the Avatar. Because, you know, she's self-righteous and she knew what she was when she could bend other elements. Yeah. So they found her right away. So I don't know what kind of tests the fire and water tests were. Which I wanted. I want to know what they were. That seems cool. She came out of a womb bending fire. Yeah. Yeah, that's... yeah, exactly. Hell yeah. Okay. Back to the story. Okay. That was why the two of them were wiping their noses with tradition and trying the air nomad way of identifying the Avatar. Yokoya would be a practice run, a safe place far from the turmoil of land and sea where they could take notes and fix problems. If Yokoya went smooth, if Yokoya went smoothly, they could convince their elders to expand the test further throughout the Earth Kingdom. The air nomad's method was simple, in theory. Out of the many toys laid out, only 4 belonged to avatars of eras gone by. Each 7-year-old child of the village would be brought in and presented with the dazzling array of playthings. The one who was drawn to the 4 special toys in remembrance of their past lives was the Avatar Reborn, a process as elegant and harmonious as the airbenders themselves, in theory. In practice, it was chaos, pure and unhinged. It was a disaster the likes of which the 4 nations had never witnessed. Jiansu hadn't thought of what might happen after the children who failed the tests were told to leave their selections behind and make room for the next candidate. The tears, the wailing, the screaming, trying to get toys away from kids who had only moments before been trying to get toys away from kids who had only moments before been promised they could have their pick. There was no force in existence stronger than a child's righteous fury of being robbed. The parents were worse. Maybe air nomad caretakers handled the rejection of their young ones with grace and humility, but families in the other nations weren't made up of monks and nuns, especially in the Earth Kingdom, where all bets were off. Once it came down to blood, especially in the Earth Kingdom, where all bets were off once it came to blood ties. Wrong toys given back, stupid kid. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, seriously. Poor kids, though. being asked to play with these, to pick like the toys, and after selecting four, they're just like, no, get out of here. You're not worth it. It is, though. If, like, you're doing it in another nation that's not used to that, sort of technique, like the air nomads, okay, they're, used to that, and I don't know. Different culture, different people. Alright. Villagers who'd especially in the Earth Kingdom, where all bets were off once it came to blood ties. Villagers whom he'd shared friendly greetings with in the days leading up to the test became snarling canyon crawlers once they'd been told that their precious little Jay or Mirai was not in fact the most important child in the world, as they secretly known all along. More than a few swore up and down that they'd seen their offspring play with invisible spirits or bend earth and water at the same time. Kelsang would push back gently. Are you sure your child wasn't earthbending during a normal breeze? Are you sure the baby wasn't simply playing? Some couldn't take the hint, especially the village captain. As soon as they'd passed over her daughter, Aoma or something, she'd given them a look of utter contempt and demanded to see a higher-ranking master. I'd like to talk to a manager, please. Okay, Karen. I want to talk to the Avatar test manager. Man. Yeah. She had given them a look of utter contempt and demanded to see a higher-ranking master. Sorry, lady, Jianzu thought after Kelsang spent nearly 10 minutes talking her down. We can't all be special. For the last time, I'm not negotiating a salary with you, Jianzu shouted in the face of a particularly blunt farmer. Being the Avatar is not a paid position. The stocky man shrugged. Sounds like a waste of time, then. I'll take my child and go. Out of the corner of his eye, Jianzu caught Kelsang frantically waving his hands, making a cut-off sign at the neck. The little girl had wandered over to a whirly flying toy that had once entertained an ancient avatar and was staring at it intently. They weren't intending to get a genuine result today, but picking the first item correctly was already improbable. Too improbable to risk stopping now. Okay, Jianzu said. This would have to come out of his... sorry, I got the wording kind of like messed me up. Okay, Jianzu said. This would have to come out of his own pocket. 50 silvers a year if she's the Avatar. 50 silvers a year if she's the Avatar, and 10 if she's not. No, 65. 65 silvers a year if she's the Avatar, and 10 if she's not. Why would I pay if she's not the Avatar? Jianzu roared. Kelsang coughed and thumped loudly on the floor. The girl had picked up the world gig and was eyeing the drum. 2 out of the 4 correct. Out of thousands. Holy shoe. I mean, of course, Jianzu said quickly. Deal. They shook hands. It would be ironic, a prank worthy of Karuk's sense of humor, to have his reincarnation be found as the result of a peasant's greed, and the very last child in line for testing, to boot. Jianzu nearly chuckled. Now the girl had the drum in her arms as well. She walked over to the stuffed hog monkey. Kelsang was beside himself with excitement, his neck threatening to burst through the wooden beads wrapped around it. Jianzu felt lightheaded. Hope bashed against his ribcage, begging to be let out after so many years trapped inside. The girl wound up her foot and stomped on the stuffed animal as hard as she could. Die! She screamed in her tiny little tremble. She ground it near her heel, the stitches audibly ripping. The light went out of Kelsang's face. He looked like he'd witnessed a murder. 10 silvers, the farmer said. Get out, Jianzu snapped. Come on, Zuzu, the farmer said. The farmer called. Let's get. After wrestling the other toys away from the butcher of hog monkeys, he scooped the girl up and walked out the door. The whole escapade, nothing but a business transaction. In doing so, he nearly bowled over another child. He had been spying on the proceedings from the outside. Hey, Jianzu said. You forgot your other daughter. That one ain't mine, the farmer said as he thumped down the steps into the street. That one ain't anyone's. An orphan, then. Jianzu hadn't spotted the unchaperoned girl around town in the days before, but maybe he'd glossed over her, thinking she was too old to be a candidate. She was much taller than any of the other children who had been brought in by their parents. Oh, there's Kyoshi. Oh yeah, and they just mentioned she's very, very tall. Yeah, she was much taller than any of the other children who'd been brought in by their parents. Yeah, it sounds like the Avatar. Totally does. Yeah. As Jianzu walked over to examine what he'd missed, the girl quavered. Threatening to flee, but her curiosity won over her fright. She remained where she was. Underfed, Jianzu thought with a frown as he looked over the girl's hollow cheeks and cracked lips. And definitely an orphan. He'd seen hundreds of children like her in the inner provinces where outlaw Dao Fei ran unchecked, their parents slain by whatever bandit group was ascendant in the territory. She must have wandered far into the relatively peaceable area of Yokuya. Upon hearing about the Avatar test, the families of the village had dressed their eligible children in their finest garments, as if it were a festival day. But this child was wearing a threadbare coat with her elbows poking through the holes in the sleeves. Her oversized feet threatened to burst the straps of her 2 small sandals. None of the local farmers were feeding None of the local farmers were feeding or clothing her. Kelsang, who, despite his fearsome appearance, was always better with children, joined them and stooped down. With a smile, he transformed from an intimidating orange mountain into a giant-sized version, not virgin, version. Please disregard that. No, you're already typing. That too. Okay. With a smile, he transformed from an intimidating orange mountain into a giant-sized version of the stuffed toys behind him. Why, hello there, he said, putting an extra layer of friendliness into his booming rumble. What's your name? The girl took a long, guarded moment, sizing them up. Kyoshi? She whispered. Her eyebrows nodded, as if revealing her name in a painful concession. My girl! Hell yeah. Her eyebrows nodded, as if revealing her name was a painful concession. Kelsang took in her tattered state and avoided the subject of her parents for now. Kyoshi, would you like a toy? Are you sure she isn't too old? Jianzu said. She's bigger than some of the teenagers. Hush you, Kelsang said. He made a sweeping gesture at the hall festooned with relics for Kyoshi's benefit. The unveiling of so many playthings at once had an entrancing effect on most of the children. But Kyoshi didn't gasp or smile or move a muscle. Instead, she maintained eye contact with Kelsang until he blinked. She's a real ass bitch living in a fake ass world. Oh yeah. Instead, she maintained eye contact with Kelsang until he blinked. As quick as a whip, she scampered by him, snagged an object off the floor, and ran back to where she was standing. Yeah. As quick as a whip, she scampered by him, snagged an object off the floor, and ran back to where she was standing on the porch. She gauged Kelsang and Jianzu for their responses intently as they watched her. Kelsang had glanced at Jianzu and tilted his head at the clay turtle Kyoshi clutched to her chest. One of the 4 true relics. Not a single candidate had come anywhere near it today. They should have been as excited for her as they had been for evil little Suzu, but Jianzu's heart was clouded with doubt. It was hard to believe they'd be so lucky after that previous head fake. Good choice, Kelsang said. But I've got a surprise for you. You can have 3 more. 4 whole toys to yourself. Wouldn't you like that? Jianzu sensed a shift in the girl's stance. A tremor in her foundation was obvious through the wooden floorboards. Yes, she would like 3 more toys very much. What child wouldn't? But in her mind, the promise of more was dangerous, a lie designed to hurt her. If she loosened her grip on the single prize she held right now, she would end up with nothing. Punished for believing in the kindness of the stranger. Kyoshi shook her head. Her knuckles whitened around the clay turtle. It's okay, Kelsang said. You don't have to put that down. That's the whole point. You can choose different. Hey! The girl took a step back and then another, and then, before they could react, she was sprinting down the hill with a one-of-a-kind centuries-old Avatar relic in her hands. Halfway along the street, she took a sharp turn like an experienced fugitive throwing off a pursuer, and disappeared into the space between two houses. Jianzu closed his eyelids against the sun. The light came through them with scarlet blots. He could feel his own pulse. His mind was somewhere else right now. Instead of Yokoya, he stood in the center of an unnamed village deep in the interior of the Earth Kingdom, newly liberated by Chu Ping An and the Yellow Necks. In this waking dream, the stench of rotting fish soaked through his clothes, and the cries of survivors haunted the wind. In this waking dream, the stench of rotting flesh soaked through his clothes, and the cries of survivors haunted the wind. Next to him, an official messenger who'd been carried there by a palanquin read from a scroll, spending minute after minute listing the Earth King's honorifics, only to end by telling Jianzu that reinforcements from His Majesty's army would not be coming to help. He tried to shake free from the memory, but the past had set its jagged hooks into him. Now he sat at a negotiating table made of pure ice, and on the other side was Tulok, Lord of the Fifth Nation Pirates. Of Tulok. Yeah. Hold on just a second. Okay. Yeah, he tried to shake free from the memory, but the past had set its jagged hooks into him. Now he sat at a negotiating table made of pure ice, and on the other side was Tulok, Lord of the Fifth Nation Pirates. The elderly corsair laughed his consumptive laugh at the notion he might honor. Yeah, the elderly corsair laughed his consumptive laugh at the notion he might honor his grandfather's promise to leave the southern coastlines of the continent in peace. His convulsions splattered blood and phlegm over the accords drafted by Avatar Yang Chen in her own holy hand, while his daughter Lieutenant watched by his side, her soulless gaze boring into Jianzu like he was so much. While his daughter Lieutenant watched by his side, her soulless gaze boring into Jianzu like he was so much prey. In these times and in many others, he should have been at the right hand of the Avatar, the ultimate authority who could bend the world to their will. Instead, he was alone, facing down great beasts of land and sea, the jaws closing in, encasing the kingdom in darkness. Kelsing yanked him back into the present with a bruising slap on the back. "Come on," he said. "With the way you look, people would think you just lost your nation's most important cultural artifact." The Airbender's good humor and ability to take setbacks in stride was normally a great comfort to Jianzu, but right now he wanted to punch his friend in his stupid bearded face. He composed his own features. "We need to go after her," he said. Kelsang pursed his lips. It would feel bad to take the relic away from a child who was so little. She can hang on to it. I'll go back to the temple and face Dorja's wrath alone. and face George's wrath alone. There's no need for you to implicate yourself. Jiangsu didn't know what counted for wrath among airbenders, but that wasn't the issue here. You'd ruin the air nomad test to make a child happy? He said incredulously. It'll find its way back to where it belongs. Cassian looked around and paused. Then his smile faded, as if this little blot of a town were a harsh dose of reality that was only now taking effect. Eventually, he sighed. Maybe. And that's the end of the first chapter. I was also talking. It's the beginning of a new book, so. But right now we're at 1 hour and 16 minutes, and I'm just like, man, I suck. But also, this is a new book, and I'm trying to process all this information. I think I'm doing a pretty good job at processing information. But I will read another chapter. Okay, this chapter hold on. Yeah. Okay. The second chapter is called 9 years later. 9 years later. Alright. Chapter whatever. 9 years later. To Kyoshi, it was very clear. This was a hostage situation. Silence was the key to making it through to the other side. Waiting with complete and total passivity. Neutral Jing. Kyoshi walked calmly down the path through the fallow field, ignoring the cover grass that leaned over and tickled her ankles, the sweat beading on her forehead that stung her eyes. She kept quiet and pretended that the three people who'd fallen beside her the three people who'd fallen in beside her like muggers in an alley weren't a threat. So like I was telling the others, my mom and dad think we'll have to dredge the Peakside canals earlier this year, Aoma said, drawing out the mom and dad intentionally, dangling what Kyoshi lacked in front of her. She crooked her hands into the crowding bridge position, while slamming her feet into the ground with solid whumps. One of the terraces collapsed in the last storm. Above them, floating high out of reach, was the last precious jar of pickled spicy kelp that the entire village would see this year. The one that Kyoshi had been charged with delivering to Jiansu's mansion. The one that Aoma had earthbent out of Kyoshi's hand and was now promising to drop at any second. The large clay vessel bobbed up and down, sloshing the brine against the wax paper seal. Kyoshi had to stifle a yelp every time the jar lurched again against the limits of Aoma's control. No noise. Wait it out. Don't give them anything to latch onto. Taking will only make it worse. She doesn't care. She doesn't care, Suzu said. Precious servant girl doesn't give a lick about farming matters. She's got her cushy job in the fancy house. She's too good to get her hands dirty. Won't step in a boat either, Jay said. In lieu of elaborating further, he spat on the ground, nearly missing Kyoshi's heels. Aoma never needed a reason to torment Kyoshi, but for the others, genuine resentment worked just fine. It was true that Kyoshi spent her days under the roof of a powerful sage, instead of breaking her nails against field stones. She certainly never risked the choppy waters of the strait in pursuit of a catch. But what Jay and Suzu conveniently neglected was that every plot of arable land near the village and every seaworthy boat down at the docks belonged to a family. Mothers and fathers, and Aoma was so fond of saying, passed along their trade to daughters, passed along their, let me say that again. Mothers and fathers, as Aoma was so fond of saying, passed along their trade to daughters and sons in an unbroken line, which meant there was no room for an outsider to inherit any means to survive. If it hadn't been for Kelsang and Jianzu, Kyoshi would have starved in the streets, right in front of everyone's noses. Hypocrites. Kyoshi pressed her tongue against the roof of her mouth as hard as she could. Today was not going to be the day. Someday, maybe, but not today. Lay off her, Aoma said, shifting her stance into dividing bridge. I hear that being a serving girl is hard work. That's why we're helping with the deliveries. Isn't that right, Kyoshi? For emphasis, she threaded the jar through a narrow gap of the branches of an overhanging tree. A reminder of who was in control here. Kyoshi shuddered as the vessel dove toward the ground like a hawk before swooping back up to safety. Just a little farther, she thought, as the path took a sharp turn around the hillside. A few more silent, wordless steps until, there, they'd arrived at last. The Avatar's estate, in all its glory. The mansion that Master Jianzu built to house the savior of the world was designed in the image of a miniature city. A high wall ran in a perfect square around the grounds. With a division in the middle to separate the austere. I think it's austere. Let me see.
Austere.
Yeah, it's austere. What was it? Yeah. A high wall ran in a perfect square around the grounds, with a division in the middle to separate the austere training grounds from the vibrant living quarters. Each section had its own imposing south-facing gate that was larger than the Yokoya meeting hall. The massive iron-studded doors of the residential gate were flung open, offering a small windowed glimpse of the elaborate topiary inside. A herd of placid goat dogs grazed over the lawn, cropping the grass to an even length. Foreign elements had been carefully integrated into the design. Yeah, foreign elements had been carefully integrated into the design of the complex, which meant the gilded drag which meant that gilded dragons chased carved polar orcas around the edges of the walls. The placement of the Earth Kingdom style roof tiles cleverly matched air nomad numerology principles. Authentic dyes and paints had been imported from around the world, ensuring that the colors of all four nations were on full, equitable display. When Jianzu had bought the land, he explained to the village elders that Yokoya was an ideal spot to settle down and educate the Avatar, a quiet, safe place far away from the outlaw-ravaged lands deep in the Earth Kingdom, and close enough to both the Southern Air Temple and Southern Water Tribe. The villagers had been happy enough to take his gold back then, but after the manor went up, they grumbled that it was an eyesore, an alien creature that had sprouted overnight from the native soil. To Kyoshi, it was the most beautiful sight she could ever imagine. It was a home. Behind her, Suzu sniffed in disdain. I don't know what our parents were thinking, selling these fields to Ganjinese. Kyoshi's lips went tight. Master Jianzu was indeed from the Ganjin tribe up in the north, but it was the way Suzu had said it. Maybe they knew the land was as worthless and unproductive as their children, Kyoshi muttered under her breath. The others stopped walking and stared at her. Whoops. She'd said that a bit too loud, hadn't she? Jay and Suzu balled their fists. It dawned on them what they could do while Oma had Kyoshi's help. It dawned on them what they could do while Aoma had Kyoshi helpless. It had been years since any of the village kids could get within arm's reach of her, but today was a special occasion, wasn't it? Maybe a few bruises in remembrance of old times. Kyoshi steeled herself for the first blow, rising on her toes in hope that she could at least keep her face out of the fray, so Aunt Mui wouldn't notice. A few punches and kicks and they'd leave her in peace. Really, it was her own fault for letting her mask slip. What do you think you're doing? A familiar voice snarled. Kyoshi grimaced and opened her eyes. Peace was no longer an option, because now Rangi was here. Rangi must have seen them from afar and stalked across the entire great lawn unnoticed, or lay in ambush for them all night, or dropped out of a tree like a webbed leopard. Kyoshi wouldn't have put any of those feats past the military-trained firebender. Ooh, so Rangi's a firebender. Okay. So Kelsang and Jianzu, I think from the description are both airbenders. Because they're both they're both described in air nomad, clothes, so I think they're airbenders. I should check. And then Rangi, which is going to be a big part of the story, as told in the summary, I guess, is a firebender. Okay. Are Jianzu and Khaosang Airbenders. Or air nomads. Oh, I guess he's an Earth Kingdom sage. Yeah, he's Earth Kingdom. And I think... Oh, okay. And Khaosang is a air nomad. Okay. Okay. So Jianzhu is Earth Nation, and Khaosang is an air nomad. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Kyoshi wouldn't have put any of those feats past the military-trained firebender. Jay and Suzu backed away, trying to swallow their hostile intent like children stuffing stolen candy into their mouths. It occurred to Kyoshi that this might have been the first time they'd ever seen a member of the Fire Nation up close, let alone one as intimidating as Rangi. Is it Rangi or... No, I think it's Rangi. In her form-fitting armor... Oh, it's a she. Unless that was already stated. Okay, now I need to check again. I'm sorry. Rangi. Oh yeah, I guess Rangi is a, Oh, I think I just got spoiled. A little bit. But that's okay. Okay. It occurred to Kyoshi that this might have been the first time they'd ever seen a member of the Fire Nation up close, let alone one as intimidating as Rangi. I read that maybe? I think as a love interest, I looked up Rangi, and of course there's the fandom wiki. And if you don't click on it, if you click on it, or if you don't, love interest, Kyoshi, and it has in parentheses girlfriend. So, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. But maybe they're gonna, probably they'll get to that part later. They'll address it maybe in this book later. But yes, yeah, it occurred to Kyoshi that this might have been the first time they'd ever seen a member of the Fire Nation up close, let alone one as intimidating as Rangi. In her form-fitting armor of color of onyx and dried blood, she could have been a vengeful spirit to come cleanse a battlefield of the living. Aloma rather impressively held her ground. The Avatar's bodyguard, she said with a faint smile. I thought you weren't supposed to leave his side. Are you slacking off? Aren't you slacking off? She glanced to the left and right. Or is he here somewhere? Rangi looked at Aloma like she had a wad of foulness. The airbend. Oh yeah, because they don't know she's the airbender. She's the Avatar. She just thinks she's a servant. That's right. I was just like, don't they know she's the Avatar? But no, they're trying to keep it a secret. I thought you weren't supposed to leave his side. Aren't you slacking off? She glanced to the left and the right. Or is he here somewhere? I think. I'm not sure if Kyoshi knows. That's a good question that I should keep reading to find out. But I feel like she would have to know. Yeah, I don't think everyone knows she's the Avatar yet. I'm pretty sure she knows she's the Avatar. But yeah. She glanced to the left and the right. She glanced to the left and right. Or is he here somewhere? Rangi looked at Elma like she had a wad of foulness the firebender had stepped in during the walkover. You're not authorized to be on these grounds, she said in her charred rasp. She pointed upwards at the jar of kelp. Nor to lay your hands on the Avatar's property, or accost his household staff, or for that matter. Kyoshi noticed she personally landed a distant third. In that list of considerations. Alma tried to play it cool. This container is enormous, she said, shrugging to emphasize her still ongoing feat of elemental control. It would have taken 2 men to lift it without earthbending. Kyoshi asked us to help her bring it inside the house, right? She gave Kyoshi a radiant smile, one that said, "Tell on me and I'll kill you." Kyoshi had seen that expression before countless times when they were younger, whenever a hapless adult blundered into the two of them playing around. Kyoshi badly scraped up and Alma Kyoshi had seen that expression countless times when they were younger. Whenever a hapless adult blundered into the two of them playing around town, Kyoshi badly scraped up and Aoma with a big rock in her hand. But today she was off her game. She normally flawlessly acted in a plaintive, genuine tone to it. Kyoshi suddenly understood what was going on. Oa really did want to help her with her delivery. She wanted to be invited inside the mansion and to see the Avatar up close, like Kyoshi got to every day. She was jealous. A feeling akin to pity settled into Kyoshi's throat. It wasn't strong enough to hold Rangi back from doing her thing, though. The firebender stepped forward. Her fine jawline hardened, and her dark bronze eyes danced with aggression. The air around her body rippled like a living mirage, making the strands of jet black hair that escaped her top knot float upward in the heat. Put the jar down, walk away, and don't come back, she said. Unless you want to know what the ashes of your eyebrows smell like. Aoma's expression crumbled. She blundered into a predator with much larger fangs. and unlike the adults of the village, no amount of charm or misdirection would work on Rangi. But that didn't mean a parting shot was out of the question. "Sure," she said. "Thought you'd never ask." With a fling of her hands, the jar rocketed straight up into the air, past the treetops. "You'd better find someone who's authorized to catch that." She bolted down the path with Suzu and Jay close behind. "You little..." Rangi made a go after them, fist reflexively cocked to serve a helping of flaming pain, but she checked herself. Fiery vengeance would have to wait. She shook her hand out and peered up at the rapidly shrinking jar. Aoma had thrown it really, really hard. No one could claim the girl wasn't talented. Rangi elbowed Kyoshi sharply in the side. "Catch it," she said. "Use earthbending and catch it." I can't," Kyoshi said, quavering with dismay. Her poor doomed charge reached the apex of its flight. Auntie Mui was going to be furious. A disaster of this magnitude might get back to Master Jianzu. Her pay would get cut, or she'd be fired outright. Rangi hadn't given up on her. "What do you mean you can't? The staff ledgers have you listed as an earthbender. Catch it." "It's not that simple." Yes, Kyoshi was technically a bender, but Rangi didn't know about her little problem. "Do the thing with your hands like she did," Rangi formed. Rangi formed the dual claws of crowding bridge, as if the only missing component were a crude visual reminder of a bender who wielded a different... Rangi formed the dual claws of crowding bridge, as if the only missing component were a crude visual reminder by a bender who wielded a different element entirely. "Look out!" Kyoshi screamed. She threw herself over Rangi, shielding the smaller girl with her body from the plummeting missile. They fell to the ground, entwined. No impact came, no deadly shards of ceramic or explosion of pickling liquid. "Get off of me, you oaf!" Rangi muttered. She hammered her fist against Kyoshi's protective embrace, a bird beating its wings against a cage. Kyoshi got to her knees and saw that her face and ears were nearly as red as her armor. She helped Rangi to her feet. The jar floated next to them, high waist above the ground. Under Aoma's control, it had wavered and trembled, following her natural patterns of breathing and involuntary motions. But now it was completely still in the air, as if it had been placed on a sturdy iron pedestal. The pebbles in the dusty path trembled. They began to move and bounce in front of Kyoshi's feet, directed by unseen power from below, like they've been scattered across the surface of a beating drum. Hold on. Let me read that again. The pebbles in the dusty path trembled. They began to move and bounce in front of Kyoshi's feet, directed by an unseen power from below, like they'd been scattered across the surface of a breathing drum. They marched in seemingly random directions, like drunken soldiers, until they came to rest in a formation that spelled a message. You're welcome. Kyoshi's head jerked up and she squinted at the distant mansion. There was only one person she knew who could have managed this feat. The pebbles began their dancing again, settling into words much faster this time. This is Yoon, by the way. You know, Avatar Yoon. As if it could have been anyone else. Kyoshi couldn't spot where Yoon was watching them, but she could imagine the playful, teasing smirk on his handsome face as he performed yet another standing act of bending like it was no big deal, charming the rocks into complete submission. She had never heard of anyone using Earth to communicate. She'd never heard of anyone using Earth to communicate legibly at a distance. Yoon was lucky he wasn't an air nomad, or else the stunt would have gotten him tattooed in celebration for inventing a new technique. What are my 3 favorite ladles doing today? Kyoshi giggled. Okay, not so perfectly legible. Sounds like fun. Wish I could join you. He knows we can't reply, right? Rangi said. Dumplings, please. Any kind but leek. Enough! Rangi shouted. We're distracting him from his training, and you're late for work. She swept away the pebbles with her feet, less concerned with blazing new trails in the world. Hold on. Okay. I think I understand. I'm pretty confused right now, and maybe so are you. At some points. But okay. Enough! Rangi shouted. We're distracting him from his training, and you're late for work. She swept away the pebbles with her foot, less concerned with blazing new trails in the world of earthbending, and more with maintaining the daily schedule. Kyoshi plucked the jar off the invisible platform and followed Rangi back to the mansion, stepping slowly through the grass so as not to outpace her. If household duties were all that mattered to the firebender, then that would be the end of it. But nothing more would need to be said. And nothing more would need to be said. Instead, she could feel Rangi's silence compacting into a denser form inside her slender frame. They were halfway to the gate once it became too much to bear. It's pathetic, Rangi said without turning around. The only way she could manage her disgust with Kyoshi was by not looking at her. The way they step on you. You serve the Avatar. Have some dignity. Okay, so she doesn't know she's the Avatar. Not even Rangi knows. The way they step on you. You serve the Avatar. Have some dignity. Yeah, they have a fake Avatar. That's why I was confused. I'm like, wait, what? But no, yeah, they do. They have a fake one. Kyoshi smiled. I was trying to de-escalate the situation, she murmured. You are going to let them hit you. I saw it. And don't you dare try and claim you were doing neutral Jing or whatever earthbending Hui. Right on cue, Rangi had transformed some professional guardian of the Avatar, ready to scorch the bones of interlopers without flinching into the teenage girl who... Hold on. Right on cue, Rangi had transformed from professional guardian of the Avatar, ready to scorch the bones of interlopers without flinching, into a teenage girl no older than Kyoshi, who easily lost her temper at her friends and was kind of a raging mother hen to boot. And speaking of your earthbending, you were shown up by a peasant. How have you not mastered the basics by now? I've seen children and you now bend rocks bigger than that jar. She and Rangi were friends, despite what it looked like. Back when the mansion was under construction, while Kyoshi was learning her duties inside the skeleton of the unfinished house, it had taken her weeks to figure out that the imperious girl who acted like she was still in the junior corps of the fire army only yelled at the people she let inside her shell. Everyone was scum who didn't warrant the effort. So the most efficient course of action would be to surprise the leader. Alma, was it? Alone somewhere, and then destroy her so messily that it sends a message to the others not to bother you anymore. Are you listening to me? Kyoshi had missed the greater part of the battle plan. She had been distracted by the collar of Rangi's armor, which had been mussed in the fall and needed to be straightened so it covered the delicate skin on her nape once more. But her answer was the same regardless. Why resort to violence? She said. She gently nudged the firebender in the small of the back. With a jar. I have strong heroes like you to protect me. Rangi made a noise like she wanted to vomit. And that is the end of the second chapter. I kind of want to read... I kind of want to read the third chapter, but it is pretty long. So I'm just going to leave off there. But I'm very much enjoying the book. Really much. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. Thank you so much for watching. Watching and listening. I hope this book, this reading of this book is good. Yeah, for Avatar fans out there. Hold on just 1 second. Bye-bye.